why did the Portuguese colonies in South America evolve into a single country, which is Brazil, whereas the continent's Spanish colonies broke off into nearly a dozen nations? Interesting question. Let's take a look at the map and see the situation in South America with our own eyes to confirm what Amisha is claiming. So here we have one gigantic nation, Portuguese-speaking nation, which is Brazil. And then you have all these Spanish-speaking nations like Argentina, Chile, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela. And then you have Guyana. We'll not talk about Guyana here. Uruguay, we forgot Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia. So all these Spanish-speaking nations and just one Portuguese-speaking nation. What happened? How did this happen? Why did the Portuguese colonies evolve into a single nation, single modern-day nation, Brazil? But the Spanish colonies all gave rise to multiple nations that actually weren't on very good terms with each other. How did that happen is the question. So I spoke about the Treaty of Tordesillas, 1494. The Spanish and the Portuguese divided the world into two halves. Okay, and it was along a line. See, let's take a look at. Let's Google this so that I can put this on the screen for easy comprehension. Treaty of Tordesillas, 1494. Look at the images. So if you see, okay, let's see this. As you can see on the screen, they divided the world into two halves. And the line on the left, as you can see, it kind of gives Portugal, the blue territory, it gives Portugal what is now Brazil, less than what is Brazil today, but the Portuguese were given the right to occupy and colonize that part of the Americas, okay, because of the line that was drawn on the map. So the the Portuguese go ahead and create this colony. And what the Portuguese do is they create a single viceroy for the entire region. But what the Spanish did is that they created multiple territories that were self-governing. You had New Spain, you had whatever else the other ones were called. You had what was Peru and the Inca Empire region and so on. So the Spanish created essentially autonomous, quasi-independent, self-governing territories that would all report back to Spain, but they would not. But they were all autonomous in a way from each other. Okay, so that's how the Spanish organized the territories they had occupied in the Americas. The Portuguese put everything under one single viceroy. For the Spanish, there are multiple viceroys, and these Spanish colonies became kind of competitive with each other also. So there was a safeguarding of territory, and there was a bit of friction and hostility and that sort of thing between the different Spanish territories. Even though they were all Spanish territories, they all reported back to the crown in Spain. But in the case of Brazil, it was not the case. Everything was under a single viceroy. Then you have, so we're talking about what? The aftermath of 1492, 1494. We're talking about the 1500s, the 1600s, and so on. Even the 1700s. So the situation evolves in this manner. Okay, then what happens is in Europe, something incredible happens. You have the rise of this one person called Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon. In 19 years, he went to from being an absolutely obscure nobody to being the emperor of France and king of Italy in just 19 years. That's Napoleon. Incredible feat. And he would do over one weekend what most people would do in their lifetime. That sort of thing. Reorganizing the entire governance system of, let's say, a country, and writing a new constitution, putting new laws, new governance, that sort of thing. And Napoleon was very ambitious. And there was this period of time which is called the Napoleonic Wars in Europe. And he invaded Spain as part of the Napoleonic Wars. We're talking about the early 1800s. 1805 to 1815. Or is it 1803 to 1815? Let's quickly take a look. Napoleonic Wars. When was this? 1803 to 1815. Okay, I was almost correct. Yeah, you don't have to memorize dates. You can always look them up. So, the Napoleonic Wars is when Napoleon tried to conquer the entire world. starting with Europe. And he invaded Spain. As a result of this, the Spanish colonies in the Americas were kind of cut adrift from the crown in Spain. And they became kind of independent. And that is the genesis of the independent nations, all Spanish speaking nations in the Americas. So the governors they were no longer connected to Spain. Spain was in complete disarray. Napoleon was invading, right? And this completely changed the structure and governance and so on of Spain. So these colonies became essentially independent, and they became nation states eventually in their own right. And some of them went to war with each other. That happens. That is known to happen in Latin America. Two nations may sometimes go to war over a football match, even though they are both Spanish speaking. That sort of thing. But Brazil did not happen. So Brazil becomes independent of Portugal. What, in the 1820s? When was it? Let's fact check. What was the actual year? Let's find out. Brazil independence year. It's 1822. So Brazil becomes independent. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not put that on the screen. So Brazil becomes independent from from Portugal on the 7th of September 1822. Brazil becomes independent. And then in Brazil also, it was not all smooth sailing. There were parts of Brazil, especially northern or whatever, that wanted to secede, that wanted to be independent. And the Brazilian government had to use military force for a couple of decades to quell these rebellions and these quests for independence. So it was not all smooth sailing. But yeah, Brazil eventually was able to prevail. And that's how they were able to remain united as a single nation, Brazil, whereas the other continental Spanish colonies broke off into a bunch of other countries. And the way they broke off into various countries depends obviously on the geography of the continent. You have the Andes Mountains, which obviously separates Peru and Chile from the rest, from the eastern part of the continent, and so on.